Hi guys, Andy N, spoken label, back in the house on a Sunday evening. It's a late one tonight as well, this, but I've always got time for poets that have been with us before, and we've got a wonderful lady with us today. And I had a coop chatting to this young lady about 2 years ago now, and we've already been joking about the fact that the last time she was on release, it was dead funny because I remember her mum was saying to her before, remember, don't swear during this podcast. So she didn't. I had ton of it after, before and after as well. So, well, but she's a fantastic writer. So, Elise, obviously, we're going to talk about your new collection today, but tell people a little bit about yourself, first of all, where you're from, and what you'd writing you've done before this, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, so I'm a poet from the Jersey Shore, New Jersey, in the United States. 2 years ago now, I released my first collection, When Wolves Become Birds, with Golden Dragonfly Press. And now we've got this new one, A Song for the Weary with Alien Buddha, that's just come out. And we've just been touring the open mic circuit. The New Jersey Poetry Renaissance is in full force here. Lots of
Brilliant.
open mics and features and hitting all the bookstores I can.
Brilliant. Obviously, 2 years ago when we tried, obviously everyone was only just coming out of lockdown by that stage, and really, wasn't it? So it's like, how is the scene where you are in New Jersey now? Then has it got quite vibrant again?
It really has like taken off like all throughout the state, like South Jersey, the non-existent Central Jersey where I do reside, it exists, and North Jersey, it's very much a vibrant, pulsing community. So many open mics like every day of the week.
Yeah, it's very similar to where we are in Manchester, England, because there's so many going on. And if people follow you on social media, we'll give the detail out later. You can always see like you so many pictures, so many videos of you. Clearly, you're in your element on it, aren't you? Basically, so that's why. But that's brilliant. No, I'm really pleased with that. So now, obviously, we're here today to talk about your new chapter piece, which is your second collection, really, the Plaza of the Weary. This is quite a different book from your collection from 2 years ago. So obviously, and I know it's been, we used the word, was it marinating, didn't we, for quite some time in building this
Yes.
one up. So obviously,
Yeah, it
before we
was.
go through a number of pieces, I picked out my 8 pieces we can have a look at. Tell us about the history of this collection. Where did the title for the piece come from?
So, Psalm for the Weary, most of the poems were written uh, during the height of pandemic and the protests that took place during the summer after George Floyd was murdered. And then just the long, long list of horrible atrocities that have taken place ever since. It kind of seems to be never ending here in the States. So most of the poems were me trying to process that and grieve in a sense, what felt like a loss of hope, I think, for me personally. And so
Yeah.
I got the title. I got the title because I was in a class. It was a Patti Smith course.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, it was very cool. Katie Fuller led the class. It was like a generative workshop using Patti Smith's work. And one of her lessons was to use John Coltrane's Psalm, played in the background and see if you could like write a piece in like the vein of Patty's like work. So, like the punk poetry kind of scene. So the title poem came from that song during that class. And I just, putting the poems together, I thought, oh, it makes so much sense. A psalm for the weary. We are a world weary society right now. And so what do we need? We need some kind of solve to like heal what we're feeling, all of this trauma and grief, and how do we process that and still find some semblance of hope. So all of these poems, and I mean the title kind of just brings it together. Like that's what I hope this collection does, is
yes, from tremendous.
access
You,
a song.
Tremendous collection, it really is. I've just wrapped up. I mean, reading just before this. Actually, I don't know if you've heard of this author, let alone he's from your neck of the woods. And Paul Auster, have you heard of him? He wrote, he was quite famous for doing a collection called New York Trilogy, and he's quite an experimental novelist, and he's just done a book called Bloodbath Nation. So I'll
Mm,
let you guess what that book's about.
yeah, I could imagine. Yep.
Yeah, so that's why it kind of made sense full on with your collection actually before. So but at the end of it, I'm a bit depressed after he dies than yours. But yeah, it is what it is.
I
Then,
try
okay.
not to leave people depressed at the end
No,
of the
no,
poems, at least.
The Paul Auster book did that one, right? So yours,
I think you can't not after a title like Bloodbath Nation.
yeah, oh, completely. But it is what it is. Anyway. Listen, we're not here about Paul Auster, so although I could, and if I could ever get hold of him, I would love to do a podcast to him. That's a story of another day.
Oh,
That
that would be great though.
he's a bit out of my league anyway. So, but okay, let's talk about some of these pieces in your book. Okay, now I said 40. I've written an excellent little chapter with this. Now, tell us first of all about Reeve Be a Mountain. Then, now obviously there's a lot in this piece. It's not just about forgiveness for yourself or a relationship, but tell us about first of all what made you then want to start the collection off with this piece then.
I think, well, I think because the starting line about this is not a poem about forgiveness, I don't think forgiveness has, been one. It was never even offered because I think all of the violence of that summer somehow we, the people, had to apologize for it. And I think that that's wrong. Like, we are not the people who should be apologizing for anything. Like, we should be apologized to. And we're not getting that from our government. We're not getting literally anything from them.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
the same over
whole,
here. It's the same over here, Dylan, at the
yeah,
moment. I think
yeah,
it's the
I
world. I
keep
think
seeing it
it's the world at the
again.
minute.
The world, yeah. The world is just weary from all of this constant violence and unjust behavior from governments worldwide. So I opened the poem with that because really I felt like the poems are a dedication in a sense to the people we've lost. At the end of the poem, it's like perhaps the dead will breathe again, and we're talking about a mountain. And I spent, much of, uh, yeah, like early 2020 and last year out in desert spaces looking at the vastness of, nature in this country that I live in, trying to process like how can this be so beautiful and peaceful and yet there's so much turmoil happening. And I think I read an article about how the tourists at the top of that mountain do actually, you're so close with people trying to get pictures of the view, and there was someone who died on the mountain and people were just stepping over the body to take a photo.
Oh, I've
And I
heard of
was
that
like,
before.
that's the whole point of the collection. So yeah, I felt that was the one to open with.
Yeah, it's a great piece, and I can see. Yeah, I can see why you wanted to start it. I just wanted to clarify from yourself in your own words. Now, the next, I was going to ask you about your as a follow up piece of this one, Sustain for the Right to Life. But
Mm.
people, eagle-eyed people in this collection, notice you've got two sustainers in this collection. Now, you've already
Yeah.
told me before, these are the only two you wrote to these. What made you want to tackle, and I'm going to be frank when I say this, because I did this form at university, and I'm going to beat you to swear words today as well for once. I fucking hated it, right?
They're really fucking hard.
I know, I'll say, that's the least I know there. People are wondering the outtakes on the last podcast. I know, oh, they're a nightmare. It's like
It's
I'd
so
like,
hard.
I can write, like I said, people know me
So
by now. I know
confusing.
I do all kinds of formats. So I love doing haikus, tankers. I struggle with sonnets, but Sistine's no way, no way, not again.
And when they say like if you can't explain how to, like, you can't explain to someone how to do it, then that means you didn't fully comprehend it. I could not explain to you right now how to write that Sistina. I did it twice, and that's probably the last time I'll do them.
Okay, what made you want to do Miss Sistinas for this collection then?
So I did again take I took a class with Meg Eden, who's also a phenomenal writer. You should
Hmm.
definitely pick out her latest book. But we were going over form poetry, and I don't usually write in form, so I wanted to challenge myself during
Ah,
the
oh, fair enough,
pandemic
fair play.
to like teach myself some forms. So yeah, there were several that we went over and discussed in the class. Sestina was one of them, and this is the one that I wrote during the class.
Oh, no, fair play then. Obviously, well, tell us about it and this Sistina for the Right to Life thing. Because obviously, it's obvious from the title what it's about. But what
Yeah.
made you want to actually write this piece then?
I was reading Olivia Lang's Funny Weather, I believe. Yep, Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency. I was really big into Olivia Lang. She's very inspiring to me lately. That book in particular, there was an essay in it where she was talking about I believe it was the Syrian refugees, and in protest, they were stitching closed their lips.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just ran with that image in my head. That's the first line of the poem. Um, yeah, and I ran with that. That it was kind of like a something came over me, like when you're writing and the muse takes over. And
Yeah, no.
read wrote that out, and yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, you can tell it's a practical act in the tenth book, actually. But of course, but it is, you,
Yeah.
but it is, you've wrote what you've had to write, and it's understandable. So, but then obviously, did the other Sistina come not around about the same time, or did that come quite later on? Your Sistinas for the Reflections of Women, dot, 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 poem.
Yeah, I think that came believe that came maybe a few months afterwards. I was reading Nif Muhammad's A Little Devil in America. And again, there was an essay um, where he wrote something about finding out that the moon doesn't actually glow and the science behind why it glows. And again, the Sistinas just wrote themselves. I was inspired by a line from these writers and I ran with it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's a good way of doing it. Like I'm of the opinion, and I'm going to swap around the order. We'll talk about some pieces in a minute. But now I'm always a believer. Like it's great when you get a piece and you see something that sets a. It's not like a bad images, but it's like a gun in it, like a bullet flying through the air. It sets a trigger off in you what you want to write. Yeah, and probably my favourite piece in the collection, what we'll talk about next, is come off of New Afghanistan, which you've obviously picked this up from somewhere, from a New Yorker article, The Shattered Afghan Dream of Peace 10 21 19, and the 30th anniversary of Voyager 1's photograph, Pale Blue Dot. Now, it's a heck of a reference, that. So that must have, those two pieces must have really made an impact on you. So going to that next then.
Yeah, God, I remember reading that. And I don't really, this is going to sound awful, but I don't usually read New Yorker articles. I find them incredibly long. But I did read that
Hmm.
one. And I was just so upset by the fact. And at this time, we had not abandoned Afghanistan yet. I wrote it prior to that happening. Um, and I read this article knowing that this is just a people who want like independence, like any other country that has fought for independence and, won it, they have not. And it just seemed like such a shame that all of these hands are in a pot for like their own greedy reasons. And there are just people here who just want to live a free life. And then the anniversary of the Voyager 1 photograph, my poetry group, that was like the prompt for us, like write a poem like with that in mind. And I was like, oh my God, this is 30 years ago at the time. So I wrote it like 2 years ago when I was 30. And I was
Wow.
like, what has really changed for us on this pale blue dot of a planet? And then yeah, now looking back at this poem, it means a lot more. knowing that like the American people just abandoned a
Yeah, yeah.
country we've been in for 20 plus years, like half my life.
No, I understand. Like I can think a lot of the problems we went in Vietnam with that one as well. So it's
Right.
definitely the parallel on that. Yeah, no, great, tremendous piece. It's probably my favourite in the
Definitely.
collection, actually, truth be told to you. So I want to ask you next as well, then. 'Cause I'm going to jump a bit around the place now as well. But tell us next a bit about a brief history on exploding, because this is the sort of piece I would have wrote this one actually. Because like I love the fact where you're playing around with lots of different timelines and it was jumping all around the places next one.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit quite random as well, but she's very meaty, aren't she? So yeah, so tell us about that one then next.
I do enjoy the randomness of that poem. Um, it's very unlike what I normally write too, so I'm quite happy it struck a chord with
Hmm.
you and people as well. I wrote that I think you know what? I think it was part of like a 30-30 challenge, like
Oh
one
yeah.
of the poetry months.
Oh,
Yeah.
Napawino. Oh, Napawino. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah. Maybe like 2021, I think.
Wow.
And I was thinking about Chinese New Year, and I had gone to the parade in the city one year, and it was beautiful. And then just a lot of gun violence in America. So the the idea of fireworks now and that sound, it it is something that's supposed to be really beautiful, has turned into this really petrifying thing now, just the sound of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of
so
course.
I kind of wanted to weave that through the poem. I kind of hope it meanders kind of like the dragons that you see during the parade.
Well, they always say with
Um,
dragons, don't they? Like the beautiful things of those Chinese dragons, and the beauty varies when it moves along. So there's an awful lot of movement in that piece. That's what I liked about it because it's
yeah,
and
and
it's
the
you
fire
surprised me to
fighting.
have done my Napton over Napawino because it was that sort of piece. I'm presuming you would have gone back and spent quite a bit of time re-editing it and rejiggling it around because it's
I think most poets are probably going to hate me when I say this, but I don't edit a lot of my stuff.
of course I forgot you said that last year the other year, didn't you? Yeah.
It's really bad. I mean, some things definitely get like
Mm.
edited, like little pieces, because I'm a terrible speller and grammar. Like I do need assistance with that.
Oh yeah. Well,
But
I'll say to you is join the club, and that's why I use Grammarly all the time.
yeah,
Henceforth, plug sign up for Grammarly, everybody. Right, it's my content.
we're gonna get them to sponsor the show.
Oh, don't tempt me, I'm well on that one, right? I know let's move on anyway. So yeah, no, it's fair play. It's like it's. I was wondering that because it felt like it was one of those sort of pieces. And you told me that done Napawino. I thought myself, I would have probably spent weeks writing that. I'm struggling trying to get the ending right because they'd probably
Mm,
I've done an awful lot of false heads for a great right. But yeah, I can imagine you do it in Napawino, getting the first draft down, and just fiddling around with it for a while afterwards, and didn't you? So that's probably. Anyway, I'll move on, right? So okay, I was really surprised on the second to last piece I want to talk about was you went into prose in it, and I wasn't expecting that with a new kind of anarchy, which I think is a great
mm.
fit for the book, but it's real change in style. So, had you wrote much prose before?
Not often. I find that a lot of the pieces that I've written for Rebelle Society would be more along the lines of prose or running the line of essay, kind of in between prose and essay.
Ah, right. So, yeah, no, it's kind of fair play to us then. So is this something then? So I'm going to talk about your future plans in a few minutes anyway. But could you see yourself visiting this in more future collections, maybe? Just doing more prose?
I would like to. There may or may not be something on the horizon that has a
Fingers crossed then.
few prosy pieces.
Now, I'm always believing in writing anyway. You've got to be constantly evolving anyway, because it's otherwise, if you're writing a poetry, whatever you stand still, it shows in your work. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of versatility in the book early, so that was great about it. So, okay, well, tell us about the content of a new kind of anarchy then. So, what made you want to put this piece in the collection then?
I think it really spoke to Um, the revolutionary spirit of the people, just society in general. There, I believe the line um, says like, you know, we help each other, meaning the community helps. Like the government's not going to help us. And that was very true of the height of pandemic, especially in my community. There is a local um, concert venue, the Saint, that was on the verge of closure. And the community rallied around to keep it afloat. Um, Again, I was listening to a lot of Patti Smith after that class. I had read all her books prior. And then again, just the constant onslaught of who has been murdered now. Um, it was just too much. And that punk spirit that I talk about in the piece, I was like, this is what society is. Like we come together, we make change, we bust down the fences and the doors, and we're gonna take justice. And
Brilliant. No,
yeah,
I agree. I agree.
people have the power, as Patty would say.
Oh God, yeah. I saw her doing a poetry read actually a few years ago now, actually. And I was never a massive fan of the music, but God, she was inspiring, and that she was. And she finished off
Yeah.
with "People Had the Power" and stood up and did a straight spoken word, no music, straight spoken word. And me and a friend that went with me at the time, we both stood there after and said, "Good God." Like you felt it, you
Yeah.
absolutely felt it. How tremendous it was. So I remember
Yeah.
chatting to her about Jeff Buckley after the concert as well, because I absolutely adored Jeff Buckley was alive. And she was telling all these really funny stories about him in the studio and stuff. I know. I'm digressing, right? So
What a life she's lived, though, to like the people that she's just been around.
yeah, you think really,
It's
she really is a survivor. Like, she obviously
yeah,
lost a husband, didn't she? Fred
yes,
Smith, and
yeah,
like it, like obviously
young,
after she's packed up in 1980, did one album in 15 years. I could only started doing music again after her husband died. I thought
yeah,
that's a heck of a life. That no, my respect, I love her straight away. Anyway, listen.
absolutely.
Anyway, we're talk about you. So, okay. Now to conclude with, obviously, you went into the title piece, didn't you? A plasm of the weary at the end of the book. So tell us about that then. What made you want to conclude it with this piece? Because this felt like to me, and you'll probably tell me otherwise. This was your Viking. I'd use a Patti Smith reference. People have the power. This is you're telling
Yeah,
people something similar in your own way. I think.
yeah. I was thinking again. I was just inspired by that Coltrane piece and listening to it. It had that New York jazzy feel, and the imaging, the images in my head of like a rain-soaked, sodden street in the city, and just the juxtaposition of like so much wealth and then poverty that exists even in a country that you think wouldn't, like, it's not, America's not a third world country, but if you look at parts of it, you think it would be at
I,
this point in
I
my
think
life.
I think a lot of first world countries are like that at the moment.
Yeah, yeah,
It's definitely a major problem. We've got this in England at the moment with the amount of food banks we have and stuff,
yeah.
which is disgraceful. And
It is, it's
that's not me talking
disgraceful.
politics. First world country like England, America shouldn't be having that. But I
Exactly,
agree
it
with
should
that's
not
why.
be
And
mentioned.
you got a gun control problem. I'm glad we don't have that over here, don't you? So that's why I'm
Right.
honest with you, because
Yeah,
we have problems with knives and stuff, but it's different cultures, don't you? That's why.
it's
So
completely different. Yeah, it's insane. It's insanity. But I really wanted a song for the weary to hit on that hopeful aspect at the very least, you know, because at the end of the poem, it's like, you know, you're looking at the pigeons in the depot and you think, oh, they're dirty, they're, but like a pigeon isn't really dirty if you read up on it, which I did. And I was like, oh, they're like incredibly intelligent, they're not dirty. And so I just wanted that last line, we recognize our worth. I wanted that to be like the end all be all of the book. Like recognize your worth, like
Drained.
what you are capable of. Like we are capable of it, to and making some change happen.
No, I agree completely. Completely, it's a tremendous book. So, okay, well, we'll start wrapping up now. So I want to give you a few chance, at least give you a chance to people to hear a few of your pieces. So, okay, couple of good questions to wrap up with. And you know what, you know what I'm going to ask you anyway. You know me from last time. You've already hinted you've got a possible another collection on the way. So, is there anything we can reveal yet, or is all this just top secret?
So we don't have a release date yet, but there is a new chapbook coming. It is in the works.
Is this from the possible same publishers as well as it, or different?
No,
Oh,
different publisher. Not actually sure if I'm allowed to say
no, don't
just
then.
yet,
Don't then.
but
No, don't then.
I'll
My
let the
philosophy is,
anticipation rise.
yeah. Do you have any sort of what is this like to be this year or next year? Do you think? Or
Um, maybe tail end of maybe the summer even or tail end of this year.
whoa, I mean, you've caught me out there. That
Yeah,
is quick,
yeah,
isn't it?
we're gonna hit you real quickly with oh she's got another one.
You know, no, listen. If the muse, my philosophy, if the muse bites or strikes, get it out there definitely. So,
Yeah, yeah,
is
it's
there any
quite
hint?
incredible.
Yeah, is there any hints you could give us then? Obviously.
Yeah, this next book that will soon be coming deals a lot more with the body and the flesh. It's a little bit more erotic in a
Oh,
sense. But
blimey! I want to put that
yeah,
past
it's
you.
a
Oh,
little
whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
it's a little sexier, but also still has what I believe is my my shtick, I'll call it, of that protesty, feminine. It's got a little bit more feminine rage, I would
Oh,
say.
whoa, oh,
So a
whoa.
mixture of a woman who's like fully self-assured in her sexuality and claims that fully and isn't ashamed of it or apologizing for it.
So shouldn't be my philosophy. Oh, brilliant. I look forward to hearing about that. I did not know that. See, this is the perks of spoken label. The right you speak to can catch you out. And she caught me out there. 'Cause I thought it might be next year, maybe the year after even. Not potentially this summer. Oh, fantastic. So, anyway, keep me in the loop on that one. So, right, give us
Absolutely.
give us the hard sell then. Where can people get hold of your chapbook then?
Okay, so you could go to Alien Buddha Press, the Amazon link. I will send to you the Amazon link. You
Yeah,
could just type in Sound for the Weary.
brilliant. Yeah, that's fine. And I'll put one in the write up for you here. So, okay, if you want people to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go?
I would recommend them go to aliseversella.com. And I'm very active on the Instagram, so you could find me at Alise0x. Shoot me a message, I always respond.
Yeah, depending on which wine you drunk, is how many F bombs get dropped in it, probably as well. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay, so brilliant. Okay, Elise, brilliant. So, okay, we'll wrap up part one here because I'm conscious of the time. I want to give you plenty of time to review poems for us. So, hang around because this really is a great chapbook. See you all in 2 minutes.